everybody, and welcome back to another show of Skomer Live. I'm coming to you from Cardiff here. It's a lot better today. The weather is definitely on our good side today compared to last week with blowing away umbrellas and all sorts. But can you believe it's now episode 3? We've nearly been following the wardens, the wildlife and the activity on Skomer Island for a month. It's absolutely phenomenal. So really excited to be back today and really exciting lineup of things coming up in today's show. Now, somewhere deep in mid-Wales, there's the rumbles of Wales's favourite naturalist, Iolo. Can you hear me?
I can. Hello, Lizzie. The sun is shining here as well. I'm in my garden and I'm surrounded by bumblebees, buff-tailed bumblebees, carder bees everywhere. So yeah, it's glorious. It's nice to be outside again.
It certainly is. And if you've been following the episode, we want you to get in touch, get your questions answered. Make sure you let us know. Use the hashtag Skomer Live if you've got some fun photos from your time on Skomer Island. And we will be joining the wardens again later live to answer all of those questions. Now, we thought we'd start the episode by talking a little bit about the history of Skomer Island. Skomer Island, I mentioned in episode 1, is quite unique in its geology and how it formed. I mentioned that it was separated after the last ice age, but actually the flora and the fauna on the island is quite unique as well. And activity on the island dates back to, we're talking the Iron Age. Now, Iolo, we found some pretty phenomenal photos from 1880 of Skomer Island, and it's really got a rich history.
Yeah, it has, and it's lovely to see, you know, the old picture of the island. But what's nice is to go into a little bit more detail and see them moving animals on and off the island, ponies and sheep, and of course they've done the same with cattle because it's been farmed for hundreds of years, and it all had to be done by boat, and it all had to be done by rowing boat. And the amazing thing between Skomer and the mainland, you've got Jack Sound, where the currents, they rip through there. So you really had to time your visits, carrying cows, carrying food, whatever it was, very, very carefully.
Yeah, and there's still on the island loads of signs of this activity, the agricultural activity that was going on, even dating back to the Iron Age. You've also got in the 18th century, there was again that boom in all of that activity in agriculture. But in the before that, in the Middle Ages, you had the introduction of the rabbits on the island. And now rabbits are, of course, such an icon of Skomer Island and are very much part of shaping the landscape on the island. But they were initially brought over essentially as a food used for their fur, their skin and their meat. And that's really why they're so prevalent on the island now. But actually, still to this day, they still have such a big mark when it comes to how the island has progressed, how everything interacts together. And the Skomer Island that we know today now, after it's now being declared a national nature reserve, it stands as a fantastic internationally and nationally recognised place for wildlife. It is just full to the brim of wildlife. And even though we don't see that agricultural activity, now we have new challenges, such as the issues of climate change on the island.
Yeah, it's really difficult because, I mean, you know, we're enjoying this lovely, lovely weather here, but they've had a real lack of rain out there, and it's very, very dry. Most of the rain we had, we've had quite a bit of rain actually over the last week or so, but that appears to have missed the islands by. And of course, a very, very dry Skomer is not good for the wildlife there. You know, it's very brittle, and in some ways it might be good that there aren't the number of visitors that they usually get, because you wander off that path when it's brittle and you're going to destroy a lot of burrows there. So for them.
Yeah, and of course there's the changing oceans, you know, increase in temperature in our oceans, which can change where food source is, the sand eels that so many of the birds rely on, but also an increase in the severity and frequency of storms. And you know, we talked about the fantastic kittiwake colony on the Wick, and that in frequency and severity out of season, you know, in that important breeding season, could prove really disastrous for birds like kittiwakes. Should we head over to the live cameras?
Yeah. Let's have a look, because last week we desperate to show you live puffins, but I think we failed. I don't know where they were last week. They're obviously gone off
No
on holiday
idea.
somewhere. Is there anything on there this week? Come on, get us a puffin.
No, but no puffins, Iolo. But what we do have is lots of razorbills there. You can see, one's just flown off there. There we are. There's been really lovely activity on the live cameras this week. To be honest, the puffins I'm seeing when they come in at dusk, they're quite busy then preening and going into their burrows. But mainly in the day, I am enjoying the other auks like the guillemots and the razorbill.
And of course, what you've got to remember is at the moment they're incubating one egg. That one egg. So one adult is going to be in the burrow sitting on that egg. So there's not as much pressure really on the other one. Probably the other one is out at sea fishing at the moment, probably preening, maybe having a chat with his mates, just having a really good time, knowing full well that in the weeks to come, when that chick hatches out and grows, they're going to be back and forth like yo-yos, so that's the time, maybe in a month, 5 weeks time, when it's going to be very, very busy there.
Absolutely. And we're going to come back to these live cameras a little bit later on. But for now, we're going to head straight into the updates. Now, if this is a live show, we're really bringing everything to you as it comes. And we've been in contact with the Wardens over the past week. And unfortunately, 2 of the staff members who you met in episode 1 have been furloughed. It's tricky times, we know, but we've got a plan, don't worry. With the help of a fantastic wildlife photographer, Danny Connor, she's decided to team up with us to help support the Wardens on the island and the Wildlife Trust. So you should be able to see a link in the comments on screen. And Danny Connor is actually taking amazing photos of the island over the years. She's spent many years on Skomer Island in the summer months. And she's offered to make personalised photos for you if you donate £5 within this 30-minute slot. So you'll see the link, donate £5 and you can be in for a chance to win a very, very funny, sometimes a little bit out there, photo of a puffin as an explorer, as a warden. You decide and she'll make it. How good is that?
That is fantastic. That is absolutely brilliant. Well done, you. And do you know what? That's one of the wonderful things about this lockdown is that people are being so innovative, coming up with new ways of making money, just new ways to entertain themselves. And well done. That is absolutely brilliant. Now, I have to say, now is a very poignant time for me, because now is the time when, if I can get away, it's when I would be out on Skomer for a day, for a couple of days, for a weekend, whatever it is. And the reason I go now is because of this. At the moment, the island, or much of the island, is a carpet of bluebells. At May, yes, there are other attractions in April and in June, July, even in winter. It's a beautiful place. But for me, it's at its very best in May. And you've got the bluebells, but also in some areas mixed in with red campion, with sea campion. So you got this mixture of the blues, the pinks, the reds, the whites. It's an absolutely beautiful place at this time of year.
It is. I think it might even be the star of the show, dare I say. Sorry, puffins, but the bluebells, they are magnificent. What else has been going on? Well, we have had a bit of a turn in weather. There was some great footage captured by the Wardens as well, with lovely fog coming in and the puffins still busy appearing out the fog. Do you know, I've spent a few times on Skomer Island where I've headed from the mainland. It's a beautiful day like this, and then you kind of go towards Skomer and it just is in this bubble of fog. It's almost like Skomer Island has its own climate, and of course it sits kind of open to the southwesterly winds, so there's no real shelter from those Atlantic gales and the swell, and it's a really interesting place in terms of its climate, but there's been some big amounts of rain and fog in this past week. What else have we got? Iolo? Have we still got Iolo?
Well, yeah.
Oh, he's there.
I just thought I just thought it'd be really nice for us, because I know next mainly on Manx shearwaters, and these birds are Wales's most important single bird species. Over half the world's population on 4 Welsh islands: Skomer, Stockholm, Ramsey and Bardsey. I thought we'd have a bit of a taster now, show you what these birds look like and the amazing sounds that they make. And these birds really, they're built for life out on the open ocean. They're not land birds at all. You see them shuffling about. They can barely walk. That's because the legs are right underneath the tail. As I say, they really are birds of the open ocean, not land birds. And the call, if you go to Skomer, try and stay overnight, because that's when you'll hear the calls of these birds. And I'll keep quiet so that we can listen to these birds. It's an amazing noise.
I'm hoping that you've just heard that.
Isn't that fantastic, Lizzie? That's brilliant. And do you know what? There's an old tale. The names Skomer, Stockholm, Ramsey, Grassholm, they're all Viking names. They date back to Viking times. And there are tales, written tales, that the Vikings were afraid of landing on Skomer at night because of the witches on there. Now, we can't be 100% sure, but they think that the witches actually were the Manxies making this weird, unearthly noise. So, if they're enough to scare Vikings, 6-foot hairy Scandinavians, well, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. They're no witches. They're just Manx shearwaters. That's all they are. Cracking birds. So, and as I say, we'll be looking at those in more detail next week.
Absolutely. I love that tale. It's fantastic. And also, we wanted to kind of show a little bit of appreciation for moth. Everyone at this time of year is talking about the emerging butterflies and the high activity that we're seeing in all our pollinators. Moths don't get the love that they deserve. They need more appreciation. And the guys on Skomer Island do exactly that. They set out moth traps and they're constantly looking for moth species. So we thought we'd share a few of their best pictures, and they're beautiful. There's a picture of a cinnabar moth. We've got a spectacle moth as well, which is kind of one of my favourites. It has this really lovely spectacle pattern. If you can get it sitting down, it's this lovely kind of like flying goggles look to it. It kind of reminds me of like a buff-tail moth or something. It's absolutely stunning. And then there's the emperor moth as well. We've a lovely picture of that, which of course has those eye spots on all 4 of its wings. And for the last picture, we thought we'd throw in a bit of a challenge. Why not? We have a picture of Guess the Moth. So have a look at this picture. It's obviously in the daytime, so it's a bit of a clue. It's a daytime flying moth, although many moths are. You can see a bit of a flower there, and have a look at the colour on it and also its abdomen, because normally with moths, they have kind of this tapered abdomen, but this may not be the case for this moth. So write down your answers, and at the end of the episode, we'll see if you are right.
I reckon I know what that is. I'm not going to say anything, but I reckon I'll give people a clue. It's kind of more of a summer visitor, and I'm not going to give them any more of a clue than that. That's made it quite easy now. I know. Sorry about that. I had to help. Now, whenever I go to Skomer, oddly enough, people say, "Oh, what bird are you looking forward to seeing most?" And for 99 out of 100 people, they say, "Oh, puffin. Really want to see puffins." Well, I've got to be honest, for me, it's a bird I don't see very often on the mainland. It's not a seabird at all. It's the short-eared owl, and they do really well on Skomer. And here is Sylvia, the warden, to tell us a bit more about them.
Short-eared owl, the amazing ground nesting species which happens to be breeding on Skomer. Their preferred nesting habitat is heather. However, there isn't very much left of it here on the island, and we have been seeing them nesting in the bracken. They hunt mostly at night, but they are known to be diurnal and crepuscular, which means that they also hunt at dusk and dawn. They are still one of the most active British owls during daylight. One of the good explanations for their daylight hunting is coinciding high activity periods of Skomer Voles, its preferred prey. So here on Skomer we see them pretty much throughout the entire season, but they are most active between May and July, which is when they feed their chicks. Up to 7 chicks may hatch, but only between 2 and 4 per pair per year will grow big enough to be able to fly. Population of often up to 5 pairs accounts probably for the quarter of the Welsh short-eared owl population, which is remarkable. So why are short-eared owls this successful on Skomer Island? Well, it's definitely the Skomer Vole, which is an endemic species. It's a subspecies of the mainland bank vole. It's also other small mammals like shrews, and wood mice, and common lizards, which is a reptile, of course. Another very important reason is the lack of ground predators such as foxes or rats on the island. We are very careful to not introduce species like those here on the island, and we're very strict about the biosecurity. Everyone has been very respectful of it, and this is exactly why, or one of the main reasons why, our ground nesters, such as the short-eared owl or our seabirds, have been thriving on this island, and may it stay this way.
What a fabulous VT with Sylvia there, looking over the fantastic species. I mean, I've seen it on Skomer Island, and to be able to see it in the day, see an owl in the day, is just incredible. And of course, now is a really good time of year. You know, in April time, you'll see them at dusk. They'll be having their courtship flights, and to see them hunting in the day, especially with such a large abundance of small mammals like wood mice and the unique Skomer Vole on the island. I mean, it's one of the best places to see it. And actually, I was reading about the short-eared owls, and in 1993, if I'm not mistaken, there were actually 14 pairs on the island, which means that there were over 30 chicks on one island. I mean, is there more reason to go to Skomer Island? It's absolutely fabulous. And Sylvia very rightly mentioned there the fantastic subspecies of vole, the Skomer vole, and from predators to prey, it's all absolutely linked. So to tell us a little bit more about the Skomer vole and how unique it really is, there's a gentleman called Tim Healing. Who knows them better than anyone? He's been working on them for over 50 years. Have a listen to this and hear about his research.
Meet the slow worm. Despite looking like a cross between a worm and a snake, these reptiles actually belong to the lizard family, and through evolution have lost their legs. There are no adders or grass snakes.
Hello, my name's Tim Healing, and I've been studying Skomer Voles for the last 50 years or so. So I just want to share a little bit about them to tell you sort of why I've been spending so much time on this sort of thing. Now, islands are very good places to study small mammals. They differ from the mainland. They're much simpler in habitat type. And this is a good thing because it enables you to get to grips with some of the differences and hence understand these things. Now, the Skomer vole is one of a group of animals called red-backed voles, which are found throughout the northern part of the world. And we have one species, Myades glariolus, in Britain, of which the Skomer vole is a member. And it lives not only on the mainland, but on a number of offshore islands, including Skomer. Now, we don't know how it got there in the first place, probably brought over by people, but it was probably some time ago as well. And during that time, it's changed quite a lot. It's got a lot bigger than the animal on the mainland, about 30% larger. It's changed its colour, and most notably when it's in the hand, it's changed its behaviour. It seems extremely tame. They don't seem to react badly to us at all. We think that they just don't recognise us as any kind of threat. They're found over the whole island, but particularly in areas of bracken. The more bracken there is, the more voles. And we've studied the groups over the island, and we found that up to some times of the year there could be as many as 20,000 of the animals, perhaps in September, October, at the end of the breeding season. They are a key part of the island fauna. There are 3 other small mammals there, mice and a couple of species of shrews, but the voles are definitely the most densely distributed of these animals. They live on bracken and in the bracken, moving around, not a lot. One of the sad things is that most people actually never get to see them because although they are there in large numbers, they're very, very shy because of other predators. And the major predator over much of the year is the short-eared owl. And at this time of year, you'll very often see owls coming into the nest carrying the carcasses of Skomer voles. It's very important that we continue this kind of long-term studies on these animals and birds, because by doing so we really get to grips with the kind of biology of these animals. And I've had a great deal of pleasure in doing that over the years, and I hope I shall see you on the island and can show you what I've been doing.
Well, I'm sorry about that. We had a bit of a technical glitch. Don't ask me what, because I am rubbish with all of these things. But there is a little lady in the post office down the road who's on her bike, winding it up to get enough electricity to bring this show to you. And she was obviously on her coffee break. So apologies for that. Now, first of all, we had wonderful short-eared owls, followed by Tim Healing, who is the world expert on the Skomer Voles, and both, as you saw there, are connected, of course. And I'll never forget being on Skomer in 1992, when the usual numbers are 2 to 5 pairs of owls on there. Well, in 1992, they had 12 breeding pairs of short-eared owls on Skomer. Skomer's only about 1.5 miles by half a mile, you know, so to have 12 pairs packed into that one area was just absolutely amazing. I've never seen so many short-eared owls in my life, Lizzie.
Oh, Iolo, that is the absolute dream. That's absolutely incredible. Do you know if those numbers have ever returned on Skomer since?
No, not since then. That really was a one-off. Massive, massive numbers of voles. And of course, that was before you were born.
Well, I tell you what, Iolo, I was just saying, because in 1993, which was when I was born, nobody worked that out. But that I was reading about that being a particularly high time for numbers. And I'm pretty sure in the year after there was 14 pairs. So what a time to be alive, literally. Moving quickly on, because we were obviously really keen to show you the slow worms that are on Skomer Island. We wanted to bring them in episode 1. You said no, we want puffins, but we are bringing them to you right now. So here's a little segment about some of the work that the Wardens do with the slow worms on Skomer.
Meet the slow worm. Despite looking like a cross between a worm and a snake, these reptiles actually belong to the lizard family, and through evolution have lost their legs. There are no adders or grass snakes on Skomer Island, and along with the common lizard, slow worms are the only reptiles found on Skomer. Like all other reptiles, slow worms are ectotherms, which means they need to find warm places to bask, to warm their blood, and to be able to get the energy to hunt. The team on Skomer Island regularly find slow worms, and they have roof sheets spread across the island as refugia, which is checked regularly as part of a reptile monitoring programme. Refugia provides the perfect basking habitat, as do compost tubes. Slow worms have a very interesting evolutionary trait. Similar to our common lizards, the slow worm can drop its tail. They then regrow their tail, which happens over time. The slow worms mainly eat slugs, worms, and plenty of other insects, which are plentiful on Skomer Island. The numbers of slow worms are doing well, and all of the data is not used for science, but is collected and sent off to the Reptile and Amphibian Conservation Trust.
Here's a fact for you, Lizzie. Did you know that the slow worms on Skocum and Skomer are amongst the biggest recorded anywhere in the world? The biggest and the fattest ones.
Of course they are. It's Skomer Island, of course. Yeah, no, do you know, I didn't know that. That is phenomenal. Yeah, another reason to go to Skomer.
Yeah, absolutely.
But the Wardens, I mean, they're out doing their mandatory monitoring, the ringing, the counts of the birds, and they're looking at the reptiles and their moth trapping. You know, there's so much on this small island, which makes it so rich and so alive, especially at this time of year. And I think we should go back to those live cams and see what's going on. So this camera is actually on a place called North Haven, and there's often lots of nesting razorbills and guillemots. Look at that. You've got lovely razorbills there. You can see where they are kind of all together in one place, most obviously because of that guano-streaked rock that you get. And again, I mean, I've said it before, but I'll say it again. Actually, where they nest is still pretty phenomenal. It's on this small area, and they'll be right now super busy, especially as they are laying their eggs. We had that first egg from that guillemot last week, excitingly. So they'll be really busy right now, going out to feed, coming back with sand eels for themselves, ready for a busy breeding season ahead.
Yeah, they're cracking birds. I do like razorbills. I think of all the auks, including puffins, they're the sort of they're the most smartly dressed ones somehow. You know, they just look immaculate with that big razor-like beak. And I think I said in show one, you know, when people are not quite sure whether they're looking at a guillemot or a razorbill, look at whether it's sort of chocolate brown and white or pure black and white. If it's pure black and white, it's a razorbill. If it's chocolate brown and white, it'll be a guillemot.
Yeah, absolutely. And if I'm honest, Iolo, between me and you, I love a guillemot, mate. It's got to be a guillemot. They do make it more neat.
No, Lizzie. No. It's a razorbill. It's a razorbill every time for me. Every time.
And with that, we'll move on. We're actually going to go over to the Wardens right now, who very kindly are dropping in again from Skomer right now. Hello, Nathan and Sylvia.
Hi.
Hello, both.
Hello. Oh, it's good to see you again. You're looking sunny and vibrant. What's going on the island?
Well, as you mentioned earlier, the main update for this week is that Keris and Catrin, our assistant warden and visitor officer, have unfortunately had to be furloughed. So that's a big change for us. Adapting what we can achieve now with a reduced team, or even further reduced team. So that's a major part of the week. But we're continuing with our monitoring of productivities of razorbills and guillemots, soon to be starting on kittiwakes, so just training up our volunteer on that.
Yeah, there's been quite a lot going on, and of course you mentioned the bluebells earlier, so it's even more beautiful right now. The island is absolutely covered in them, and it's absolutely stunning. So we did share a photo on Twitter and Facebook a few days ago, and that went crazy. So we will be sharing more photos, of course, so people can look it up and share comments with us and their photos as well. So that's very exciting.
It is, and I think people are just really enjoying getting to know your kind of everyday ins and outs and how things are progressing. We have a flood of comments and questions that have come in, so I'm just going to read a few of them out first. Elizabeth says hello from Italy. We've got someone in from France as well. Amarilla says hello from London. Barbara says hello from Australia. That's my okay.
That's a dreadful accent. Move on, Lizzie. Move on.
All right,
quickly.
moving on. Rachel Mullet says she can see Skomer Island from her house. How lucky is she? And we've got some correct answers as well to our quiz, but we'll come to that a little bit later on. And we have some questions here as well. So Ian wants to know, can you tell us more about the slow worms? And he's also said to you, Iolo, are you feeding the slow worms cake? Is that why they're so big?
That's why I haven't got any cake on me now. It's because they've all been eaten by the slow worms. No, it's because there's such a wealth of food there for them. If you go out at night on Skomer, don't go barefoot, whatever you do, because there are slugs, there are toads, absolutely everywhere there. So there's plenty of food there for them, and as long as they can avoid the gulls and the buzzards, you know, they you've got no ground predators there either. So I'm sure that helps as well.
And Wardens on the island, you know, how often do you see slow worms? Are you getting an idea of whether you're getting more and more slow worms?
Yeah, we quite regularly see them when we put our compost out. They like the compost heap, definitely. But we also do some monitoring of them as well. Well, I should say that we're effectively bringing it back after a few years of absence. So we've introduced a new splitting of the transects, and our weekly volunteers that come out to the island, we have 6 weekly volunteers that change each week, and that's part of their work that they do on the island. So it's exciting to get them doing that again.
Yeah, so they'll be checking for slow worms under the roof sheets, old roof sheets that we've been using. So they're spread out across the whole island. And often they'll find the exciting Skomer Voles as well, which is nice.
Absolutely fabulous. And over the past week, I mean, we've talked about the changing in weather. I mean, how has that impacted your day-to-day monitoring and activities on the island?
Definitely need to wear a hat when it's sunny. And we've been wearing waterproofs a bit more recently, but otherwise it doesn't change too much. In terms of razorbill and guillemot productivity monitoring, when it's windy and cold and raining, you're less likely to see an egg. The birds will sit more tight, so it can mean waiting around for a bit longer. to hopefully see that egg.
And next week, we'll be focusing a little bit more on Manx shearwaters. So, I mean, is there a certain time of day that you really love when it comes to shearwaters? Obviously, they're on the island at night time, but is there a way of you kind of investigating their burrows in the daytime, or do you head out on the water at dusk?
We will start monitoring via the burrows soon. And that's part of their productivity monitoring. And so we have some study burrows on the isthmus that links sort of North Haven and the neck. And so that'll be ongoing soon. But at the moment, we're doing adult survival monitoring. So we're heading out onto that isthmus where lots of adult birds have been ringed. We go out at night and catch them, read the ring number, and see if it's survived another year.
Yeah, so of course the good time to go out to find and to see them, or more numerous, I should say, when the night is dark. So ideally cloudy and not at full moon, and then you just hear thousands and thousands of them flying, and then you'll see them on land as well. And an even more exciting time is when the fledglings are out. So they'll be outside their burrow, exploring, getting used to the surroundings, and that of course is August, September, the best time to see them.
Absolutely fabulous. And before you go, just to give a bit of an idea about how Skomer Live will progress over the next few months, what for you are you really looking forward to this month or next? You know, what do you really want the viewers to tune into?
Oh, that's a hard question. Well, it's because everything is so exciting.
I think chicks, definitely. So, yeah, once we start getting pufflings and razorbill chicks and guillemot chicks, I think that's something that's everyone loves, and it's fantastic to share with people.
Yeah.
And I think the fact that you mentioned pufflings there, that will please thousands of people. Well done, Nathan.
Yeah.
Fantastic, both. Well, thank you so much again for tuning in, and we'll be keeping in touch with you throughout the week. Everyone's loving your update.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you both.
We'll see you next week as well.
Yeah, lovely. Now, Lizzie, listen, it's time that we had the answer to our quiz. People have been getting in touch in their millions. 17.5 million people have been in touch. My lady in the post office has got 4 friends to help her get the electricity going. That's how popular it's been. We showed you just the tail end of a moth. We asked you what it was. I give you a really, really big clue. It comes up from the continent on these warm southerly winds. It is, of course, a hummingbird hawk moth. How many got it right, Lizzie?
Oh, well, let me start with that 19 million. We've got Frank, we've got Susan, we've got Norma, we've got... I'll just get through a few names. We've got Chris Taylor, Catherine Lewis, Anne Kingston, Claire Aldrich got it right, Julie Davis got it right. Lots of you getting it right there. And maybe it was a bit too easy, Iolo, to be honest.
Well, hang on now. You mentioned Chris Taylor. If it's the same one I'm thinking of, he was a warden on Skomer, so that's not fair. He's not allowed to enter these competitions.
Yeah, no, he's been scrapped from the 19 million on the list. Thanks to I'm sure the old ladies on the bike will be enjoying that. Thank you all for sending in your answers there. And also just a little reminder before we start to wind up that you can still donate now. All we're saying is for £5 you can get your own personalised picture, thanks to Danny Connor very kindly given some of her fantastic photography and skills to use for the island. And Sylvia mentioned it in when we had a quick chat with them then about the shearwaters next week. And we will be going to the shearwaters. We'll be talking about what happens when you're monitoring the shearwaters. So make sure you stay tuned for that. I'll be getting a little inside look at actually what the whole breeding season looks like for the shearwaters. That window of opportunity that we really get to see and get to know this fantastic bird species. And that's about it, Iolo. That's all we've got time for.
Yes, it is indeed. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. And don't forget, please, please, please support the Wildlife Trust. Support your local trust as well, because by doing that, you are helping wildlife. But thank you very much. Diolch yn fawr iawn, and we'll see you next week. Take care. Bye-bye.
See you next week.